we're just going to move right over here just so you can see. Between the games from CE to Halo 2 by Halo Canon. And yeah, we watched one of his videos before. They're good. I figured we'll watch another one. So yeah, let me move back over here. Alrighty. Oh, that's a little bit off. There we go. And then we'll start it off. We'll full screen it here. Let me know how the volume
galactic
is, chat.
super weapon neutralized, an ancient all-consuming parasite seemingly dealt with, and an entire Covenant armada destroyed. Halo was finished, but the war for humanity's survival was far from over. When first booting up Halo 2, players are essentially thrown into the action. You aren't given much time to think about, how did we get here? Wasn't the Chief stranded in deep space? Didn't I see Johnson die while getting his ass groped?
Sorry, Guns. It's classified.
That's about as much explanation.
Wait, what? He got groped and then he was just told that it's classified? That's a strange detail. Oh, okay, weird.
As one gets. The game distracts you from the larger questions by bringing up a bunch of new ones that take precedent, such as who the Stu Sangheili we keep cutting to is. And that works for a lot of people. However, there was indeed a story told between Halo CE and Halo 2, a story of survival and sacrifice. Primarily told through the book Halo First Strike, the key events between Halo CE and Halo 2 have since been expanded upon, thanks especially to Halo 2 Anniversary's terminals. So today, we'll take a look at these events in good old timeline fashion. Though, this is still mostly First Strike, so be prepared for that.
Okay. Well, that's fine, because we just want to know what happens in between.
Halo was destroyed, and for a moment it seemed like Spartan 117, the Master Chief, along with the AI Cortana, were the only survivors. Initial scans had revealed nothing, but soon, the Soel system was alive with activity. A surviving ship from the fleet of Particular Justice is joined by an advanced scouting party sent ahead of High Charity and searching the Alpha Halo debris field. Meanwhile, Cortana detects jettisoned cryopods from the Pillar of Autumn. Among them, as would later be discovered, is the clinically dead Spartan Linda 058. During the events of the Battle of Reach, Linda had suffered extensive plasma injuries and been quickly moved into cryo. This would ultimately save her life. Moving the longsword towards the cryopods using only thrusters to avoid detection, Cortana also discovers a pelican hiding on a nearby asteroid. As the Chief exits the longsword to recover the cryopods, the pelican bursts to life, drawing the attention of the nearby Covenant ships. Thanks to masterful maneuvering by Cortana and planning by John, the Longsword and Pelican are able to move into a slingshot orbit around Basis, a moon of Threshold, the gas giant that Alpha Halo once orbited. The two ships dock, and the Master Chief and Cortana find themselves face to face with fellow survivors of the Battle of Installation 04, ONI Lieutenant Elias Haverson, ODST Corporal Locklear, Warrant Officer Sheila Pulaski, the Pelican's pilot, and to John and Cortana's surprise, Sergeant Avery J. Johnson, a man John had seemingly watched die. Johnson explains that the Flood, quote, couldn't get a taste for him, and though John and Cortana are initially wary, a scan confirms that Johnson is not infected by the...
Whoa, wait. What does that mean? That they don't have a taste for him? Does that mean they couldn't absorb him? That's kind of odd, or mutate him, or whatever it is they do. That's crazy if that's the case. They need to figure out what's going on with that then. Do some experiments and figure that out.
Flood. With that out of the way, the group goes to work on dealing with their current situation. Loading the Pelican with Moray space mines, the dropship is sent ahead of the Longsword, remote piloted by Cortana, to draw attention and lay the mines. This in turn draws out Seraph fighters from the lead Covenant ship, creating an opening for the Longsword to enter. It's a rough landing, but the team manages to board the Covenant carrier, a DDS class later identified as the Ascendant Justice. Once inside, Cortana is plugged into the ship's systems and decompresses most of the vessel's decks, killing a majority of the crew. The survivors are made quick work of as the chief and his complement make their way to the bridge, where they're confronted by a black armored Sangheili. The chief, worn out from days of near non-stop fighting on Halo and his energy shields failing, is nearly overpowered. With the help of his team, however, he manages to severely wound the Sangheili and toss it into an escape pod, jettisoning it from the Ascendant Justice. The crew is far from safe, though. A malicious Covenant AI dogging Cortana and the ship's systems, and the rest of the Covenant support fleet turning their fire towards the Ascendant Justice, it's almost a miracle that they managed to escape. While evading incoming fire, the ship is pulled into the gravity well and upper atmosphere of the gas giant.
Wait. So, is that us? That Covenant guy, was that us in the second one? Because I know he fought Master Chief and then was disgraced. So if that's him, that's pretty interesting, because I didn't think he was there in the middle there. But maybe I just wasn't paying attention. Okay.
Threshold. Normally, slipspace jumps would be impossible here, but with Covenant slipspace drives, Cortana makes it work. Once in slipspace, the Chief, Cortana, Haverson, Johnson, Pulaski, and Locklear discuss where to go. After a bit of debate, the Chief is able to convince Haverson that they should head to Reach. A direct course to Earth would violate security protocols, and with Reach already known to the Covenant...
By the way, I just saw that it's pitch black when they do this. That makes perfect sense, because technically you're going faster than light, which means, right? And so that means that there should be no light anywhere. You shouldn't be able to see anything. It would just be pitch black. So that's an interesting, cool little detail. That makes sense. I dig it.
It made an acceptable destination. Further, if there was still any Covenant activity near the planet, they'd be unlikely to fire upon the Ascendant Justice, at least long enough for them to slip away if needed. Haverson accepts the Chief's logic and has Cortana redirect the ship. In secret, however, there was another reason the Chief wanted to head to Reach, to confirm whether his fellow Spartans had died there or not. Back in the Sol system, the disgraced Thel Vadami would be recovered by a CAS-class assault carrier and brought to High Charity. There, he would eventually be tried for his failure to secure the Holy Ring, Halo, and his loss of the Ascendant Justice. During his captivity, Thel would send a copy of a priority broadcast log of the Battle of Installation 04 to his mentor and advisor, Lack Vadami, wanting at least Lack to know the truth of the events that had transpired. Thel would also send a report of the events to the High Prophet of Truth himself, accepting his responsibility in the destruction of Halo while discounting reports of the demon's capabilities during the conflict. Included in the report was an analysis of the demon's armor, abilities...
Alright, well, let's read this part. Alright, so Most High and Honored Council, according to records gleaned from the conflict and subsequent victory at Reach, and the disaster at Halo, the demon, which of course is Master Chief, this exceptional human is a class of warrior known as a Spartan. Okay, so maybe they're just talking about a generic one, but I think it is Master Chief that he's talking about. It's got to be, right? These Spartans were most numerous on Reach and more difficult to eradicate than the other human troops. It appears that the demon escaped from Reach. These Spartans may be machine-enhanced. They are certainly well-versed in armed and unarmed combat, and in many ways they fight more like Sangheili than Ungoi. And the Sangheili, they are able to inspire discipline and tenacity among the weaker ranks. Their primitive weapons and vehicles rely almost exclusively on projectiles and explosive chemicals. As ancient as their technology seems, it has occasionally caught our troops off guard. Casualties caused by unprepared infantry are unacceptable. They should be better educated in human methods, tactics, and technology. A comparison of these devices and our current weaponry follows. Okay, so interesting. Now, he does say that it's primitive technology, but just because it's primitive technology doesn't mean you wouldn't be able to overwhelm someone else. It's not really what it is. It's more of like, how you would use it and the tactics that you would use, right? That makes the most sense. I mean, no weapon is really better than any other weapon unless, it just, you can't make it work. But that has nothing to do with the weapon. It has everything to do with your tactics. So I get it. That makes sense. They constantly underestimate them because they see themselves as more superior. I get it.
And weaponry. At the same time, Monitor 04343 Guilty Spark was able to escape his ring's destruction. In the wake of those events, Spark departs for the nearby gas mine in Threshold's upper atmosphere. Upon arriving, he finds a detachment of Covenant artifact hunters that had been dispatched there in the days prior.
So, if I'm not mistaken, he is actually the same guy. Or the same machine that we saw at the library, right? Who was doing all that and trying to get us to exterminate all life. I'm pretty sure that's the same unit.
When the Covenant fleet had first arrived. Made up primarily of Sangheili and Ungoi, along with a few Kigyar, Spark finds himself under assault by the Kigyar upon arrival. A Sangheili takes action, however, cutting down the Kigyar and offering up his life in penance for the disgrace the Monitor had suffered. Spark merely asks to be taken to the group's leader. Meeting with the leader of these artifact hunters, a Sangheili named Sesarefumi, Spark begins revealing the truth behind the Halo rings, urging the Sangheili to help Spark enact flood containment measures. With the ring destroyed, Spark would need help should any flood escape from its surface. However, hearing that the object of his society's worship was actually a galaxy-killing superweapon causes an understandable crisis of faith within Sessa. Cutting off communication with any nearby ships, Sessa and Spark begin a dialogue, one that would eventually cause the Sangheili to denounce his faith and the entire Covenant. And, as Spark feared, Flood would indeed make their way to Threshold, and a new outbreak would take hold, if only for a while. A few hours after entering Slipspace, the Ascendant Justice enters the Epsilon Eridani system much sooner than originally anticipated. The group is shocked when they see the sorry state of Reach, but mystified to also find an area of the planet that had gone untouched. And more curious still, Cortana detects a signal on the UNSC E-band, a 6-note tone. John immediately recognizes it as Ali Ali Oxenfree, a signal the Spartans used during their days of training. Some of his fellow Spartans were alive.
Oh, no kidding. Damn. So they really are pretty damn badass. They survived that whole time on that planet. That's crazy, with both Flood and Covenant. That's insane.
After making a plan of action, the Installation 04 survivors take a Spirit dropship, reinforced with material from the Longsword, to Reach's surface, able to slip by thanks to protocols created by Cortana. Unfortunately, Cortana's cover is blown when the Covenant AI manages to briefly take control of Ascendant Justice's communications and inform a nearby Covenant ship that the Justice had been compromised. This does, however, give Cortana the opportunity to capture and dismantle the AI, vivisecting its code line by line. She then takes out a few nearby Covenant ships before making a slipspace jump to the edge of the Epsilon Eridani system. There she'd...
So, I would suspect that since she disassembled that other AI, she probably adopted some of its core programs and stuff to make herself better, right? I mean, it would be kind of weird if she didn't.
Wait until the predetermined rendezvous time with the Master Chief and team. To kill time, she analyzed the code of the Covenant AI. Upon arriving on the surface, the team is able to meet up with a few Spartan 2s, Anton 044, Grace 093, and Lee 008, along with Vice Admiral Danforth Whitcomb. After explaining the situation, what happened during Operation Red Flag and the discovery of Halo, Whitcomb fills the Chief and company in on what's been happening on Reach, namely that more Spartans and Dr. Halsey are buried under what remains of Castle Base, and his own work with a new prototype bomb, Nova Bombs, planet killers. Whitcomb had armed the ones...
Let's go. We're heading into 40K. We're heading into 40K, boys. Let's go. It's just a hop, skip, and a jump away, baby.
They had with a 10-day countdown timer, hoping that either they'd be taken somewhere by the Covenant, or if not, they'd at least stop the Covenant forces on Reach. And he notes that they have about 20 hours until the bombs detonate. In light of this news, the group returns to the Spirit to head for the Menakite Mountain, where they'll extract their remaining survivors before meeting up with Cortana. Entering a large cavern that leads into the tunnels beneath the mountain, they fight past some Covenant forces and find 3 more Spartans, Fred 104, Kelly 087, and Will 043, plus Dr. Halsey, the project lead of the Spartan 2 program.
Okay. So this is the cave that we went to that had the facility that she was working on Cortana at. So from what we had heard before is that they were there for 2 days after the incident, and then they were saved and rescued, right? So this is what in particular I wanted to know, is more about Halsey and what happened after that. I mean, obviously she still worked on the program, right? But now we have Cortana. So is it a different one or what? Or does it constantly update Cortana herself? I don't know. Let's find out.
Halsey, John notices, is carrying a large crystal in hand, one she found in the caverns beneath the Menakite Mountain in the 3 weeks since the team had been down there. 3 weeks since the fall of Reach, meaning the survivors of the Battle of Installation 04 had somehow
Wait, 3 weeks? I thought they said they left it in after 2 days after Reach. So that must be a retcon then. Okay, I see why some people don't like some of this lore, because it retcons itself oddly. Okay.
arrived at Epsilon Eridani before they arrived at Alpha Halo. As Dr. Halsey would deduce later, the crystal she discovered could warp both space and time, and had done so to ensure the Halo team would arrive at Reach in time to recover it.
Wait. So she basically just has one of the Infinity Stones at her disposal just so that they could come and get it, and it was just growing here? Like, what? Are there more of them? Is it like a relic? I don't know. Huh.
The reunion is cut short, however, with more Covenants surrounding the group and opening fire. The team is able to escape and rendezvous with Cortana, but Kelly is severely injured during the escape, incapacitated by blasts from Hunter assault cannons while protecting Dr. Halsey. Once everyone is aboard the Ascendant Justice, the ship now fused with a Paris-class heavy frigate, the UNSC Gettysburg, for additional power, Cortana enters slipspace, evading Covenant forces. After the jump, Halsey immediately notices that they aren't in slipspace, or not the slipspace they know. Usually an empty black nothingness, slipspace being devoid of any visible light, wherever they are is noticeably blue. Removing the crystal from her pocket, it has reshaped itself into a multifaceted starburst and is emitting a ton of radiation. John immediately...
Emitting a ton of radiation? Like, are they all gonna die from radiation poisoning? Okay. Interesting.
Has Anton move it to the longsword in the docking bay, but it doesn't seem to do much for the radiation levels. Outside, Covenant ships are in pursuit. When they try to fire, their plasma beams move in every direction, disappearing and reappearing at random. To make things worse, the Ascendant Justice's plasma conduit is severely damaged, sabotaged by surviving Covenant aboard the ship. The Spartans have to go outside to repair the damage, escorted by Warrant Officer Pulaski.
Wait. They can go out onto the ship while they're in FTL? That's crazy. What? How does that work? Well, I guess we'll find out.
Anton and Lee are all killed during the mission and engagement with enemy elites. In a last-ditch effort, Admiral Whitcomb is able to engage 2 of the Covenant ships, destroying them at point-blank range, then has Cortana drop the Gettysburg Ascendant Justice into normal space, stranding any remaining Covenant in the plasma-filled slipspace anomaly as it collapses. In the aftermath, the unconscious John, Grace, and Will are returned to the Gettysburg and given medical attention, along with Kelly 087. Linda 058 is also removed from her cryopod as Dr. Halsey examines the possibility of resuscitating her. Upon waking, John is informed of the status of his fellow Spartans by Cortana, and of a grave discovery she made while his team was on Reach. The Covenant have found Earth, and are amassing a fleet to invade. John heads to the bridge to speak with Admiral Whitcomb and Lieutenant Haverson, where he's filled in on the broader situation and where the team is. Finding them to be near the Eridanus system, John suggests that they could go to an old insurrectionist base that might still operate there, one the Spartans infiltrated decades ago on their very first mission. With the lethal levels of radiation given off by the slipspace crystal Halsey found, the short jump to Eridanus Secundus, the aforementioned rebel base, should be short enough to not kill everyone and allow them time to repair the ship. Their jump initiated, John heads into the medbay to talk with Dr. Halsey at her request. There, she informs him that she wants to discuss Sergeant Johnson surviving his encounter with the Flood. Pulling up the sergeant's medical records revealed that he'd been afflicted with a condition known as Boren syndrome, a disease he reportedly got after the Battle of Paris 4. There, Johnson had used a crate of captured plasma grenades against invasion forces, resulting in a 1,200 rad dose of radiation. Boren syndrome is typically characterized by migraines, amnesia, and brain tumors, disrupting the electrical signals in a person's nervous system.
Whoa, okay, that's a pretty nasty one there, chat. Whoa, okay. So it effectively gives you brain cancer. So since they have that crystal there, that's essentially what's going to happen to all of them. But I guess the trade-off is that the Flood can't use them? Question mark? That still doesn't explain why. Does it just not want to, or it can't, or what? We need more on that.
Johnson apparently didn't finish the 30 weeks of chemotherapy to treat Boren syndrome, leaving him with a somewhat disrupted nervous system. Because of this, Johnson is more difficult to infect, allowing him to fight off the Flood.
Okay, so he's just more difficult to assimilate. He's not actually immune. Okay, that makes more sense. I thought it was gonna just make him immune, or they just don't want to, which would be weird, because they're kind of like a mindless blob, right? Of biology. They're probably more like bugs than anything else, like with the actual intellect of it, I would assume. Other than being raised and using the body of whatever, because we all know that they all have retained their motor skills and stuff, and the ability to use guns, which, by the way, is crazy. But yeah.
This, Halsey gives John a choice and a final lesson. Presenting 2 data crystals, one containing Halsey's analysis and a possible method to counter an initial Flood infestation, and the second containing the sources for that data, she asks John to choose which to present to Lieutenant Haverson. The second crystal...
Why would you not tell the higher-ups about both of them? You can use both. It's not a one or the other situation. Why? That's just a dumb loophole. Like, what? Or, not loophole, but plot hole. That's just, what?
Will give Oni a better chance of replicating Johnson's condition, but will almost certainly result in the sergeant's death. Oni's certain to dissect him. Halsey wants to teach John the value of saving every life, not just the most at the cost of a few. With that, she leads him to prepare for surgery on Linda 058. Approaching the asteroid base of Eridanus Secundus, Admiral Whitcomb reaches out on a UNSC communications band to make contact, managing to ping Governor Jacob Giles. After some tension, Giles invites Whitcomb, the Master Chief, and Dr. Halsey to join him for dinner in the asteroid. As Whitcomb fills the Governor in on their situation, notably that the Covenant will track them to this asteroid soon, the inevitable happens, a Covenant cruiser appearing in system.
Of course it does, because it wouldn't be interesting if they could just have dinner. They have to be interrupted in doing everything. It'd be hilarious if most of the people on board were, taking a shit or something, and then they just attack. But I wouldn't put it against the writers on that, I guess, because they probably would if they had thought of it.
The Gettysburg Ascendant Justice manages to take it out in a rather interesting manner. The magnetic coil used by the plasma turret on the Ascendant Justice is damaged, so, at John's suggestion, Cortana reroutes the plasma to the Gettysburg's MAC cannon, using the MAC's magnetic coils to improvise a plasma turret. With the cruiser destroyed, Giles agrees to do what repair work can be done. While repairs are underway, John 117 and his fellow Spartans, thanks to Sergeant Johnson, realize that there's an opportunity to deal a massive blow to the Covenant. For once, they know where the Covenant is and can initiate a first strike against the alien hegemony. Before John can bring this plan to Admiral Whitcomb, however, Dr. Halsey manages to kidnap an unconscious Kelly 087 and make a jump into slipspace, using a Chiroptera-class stealth vessel that was owned by Governor Giles. The smallest ship to ever have a slipspace drive, roughly the size of a Pelican, They reportedly had their functions locked down by Oni encryption. Naturally, this was no problem for Dr. Halsey.
Of course. Because she's like, what, the smartest human ever or something? Right? Of course they have to write someone in who's just conveniently there to deal with the problem.
Unknown to those she's leaving behind, Halsey is departing for the secret world of Onyx, home of the Spartan 3 program, hoping to find a way to save what remain of her Spartans, and the Spartans she finds there from the ravages of the Covenant War. Just as Halsey departs, 30 Covenant ships slip in. With no other choice, Admiral Whitcomb orders Cortana to take them to slipspace, abandoning the people of Eridanus Secundus.
So they just abandoned everyone to die other than themselves? I mean, I guess, but wasn't her whole plan to, like, literally save everyone instead of most people? Wasn't that what she just said? Alright, whatever.
In another part of the ship, noticing that the Gettysburg Ascendant Justice is making another slipspace jump, Corporal Locklear decides he's had enough with this Forerunner slipspace crystal. Given to him by Dr. Halsey before she departed, the crystal had killed a woman Locklear loved and would give away their position yet again. Wrapping it in C7 explosives, the Corporal sets a timed trigger, then dives for cover.
Wait. So they just blew up the crystal? Because it actually killed somebody? Wait, huh? So why does it only activate when they're trying to run? And how are the Covenant able to track it? That doesn't make sense to me. But I don't know. Whatever. We might find out here soon.
Unfortunately, he would still be caught in the blast and killed. When the rest of the team, now Admiral Whitcomb...
Okay, so we don't get an explanation. That just sounds like a plot hole. They just had to have the Covenant show up for whatever reason, and they decided, a magic crystal that they can just track for whatever reason because they know they have it, I guess. But if they knew it was there, why didn't they take it? Right? Like, huh? Alright.
Lieutenant Haverson, Sergeant Johnson, John 117, Fred 104, Grace 093, Linda 058, and Will 043 discover the Corporal's deed. They spend a little time discussing it before John brings up the idea his Spartans had come up with: infiltrate the Covenant invasion fleet. It takes some convincing, but eventually Whitcomb approves of the plan. The Spartans will drop out of slipspace in a Covenant dropship, aided by what is essentially a clone of Cortana created using a Covenant copy algorithm that she got from the Covenant AI, after which they'll infiltrate the fleet's command and control center, unyielding Hierophant, and destroy it. Meanwhile, Whitcomb, Haverson, Johnson, and the original Cortana will continue to Earth to warn of the invasion and deliver the intel from Halo. The Spartan team is able to infiltrate the unyielding Hierophant and set the station's reactors to detonate, though Grace 093 is killed during the mission. As the Spartans escape, they receive an Ali Oxenfree signal. To their surprise, it's Admiral Whitcomb, Lieutenant Haverson, Sergeant Johnson, and Cortana. They hadn't left straight for Earth, but instead jumped to the system's Oort cloud to recon the size of the fleet. Upon discovering its 500-plus ship composition, Whitcomb knew that detonating the unyielding Hierophant's engines wouldn't be enough. Detaching the Ascendant Justice from Gettysburg after moving the slipspace drive into Gettysburg so they could get home, the Ascendant Justice was set on a collision course with the Hierophant, a broadcast claiming to have the slipspace crystal the Covenant were seeking being sent out in order to draw them in.
Wait, but that wouldn't work because they can detect it, right? Once it starts activating, they can detect it. And if it's a decoy, it's not a very good one because then they'll just realize, oh, they don't actually have it. But all right, whatever. Yeah, it's full of plot holes for sure.
Upon boarding the Gettysburg, John notices that neither Whitcomb nor Haverson were present. Both were aboard the Ascendant Justice, pretending to have the slipspace crystal the Covenant had invaded Reach for, had been chasing them for the last few days. The ploy works and almost all of the invasion armada are destroyed along with the Hierophant, maybe a dozen ships surviving. Their work done, the Spartans, Cortana, and Johnson begin their long journey back to Earth with a Covenant slipspace drive, several Covenant engineers, and a ton of intel.
Oh, okay, so they took some prisoners that are engineers so they could actually get back home. Well, what the hell are they going to do with them? Are they just going to execute them when they get home? They get back, or what? Or when they're not useful anymore? Okay.
As for the data crystals Dr. Halsey had given to John, he ultimately decides to destroy the crystal with the source for Halsey's findings, the crystal that would have resulted in Oni killing Sergeant Johnson. During the trip back to Earth, the team take time to create after-action reports on Reach, Halo, and Operation First Strike. Meanwhile, following the destruction of the invasion fleet, Tartarus, chieftain of the Gerolhanae, had 8 squadrons search the area around what used to be Eridanus Secundus, searching for the Forerunner crystal from Reach. Only 3 shards were discovered and delivered directly to the High Prophet of Truth. These shards would be vital for the Prophet's future plans, to invade Earth and activate a portal beneath its surface. A portal to the Ark. Truth orders that those who participated in the search be killed to keep the existence of these shards secret. Not a month later, Truth would order all Sangheili in the Fleet of Profound Solitude, the Fleet of Tranquil Composure, and the Fleet of Inner Knowledge to be replaced by Gerolhanae, one more step in Truth's plans to completely replace the Sangheili with the Gerolhanae. In addition, all imprisoned or criminal Gerolhanae would be released, rehabilitated, and paroled. While the survivors of Installation 04 and Reach made their way back to Earth, several other events would occur. On September 26th, Oni Agent Jameson Locke would submit a report on Supreme Commander Thel 'Vadamee and the specific threat he posed to the UNSC. The report ends with Locke recommending the assassination of 'Vadamee. On October 8th, the freighter Floral Express, which had made a random slipspace jump to escape the destruction of Tribute, emerges in the Caffrey system, discovering Installation 03. On October 10th, the UNSC Navy's Battle Group Rhino of 3rd Fleet detects 12 unidentified vessels on the edge of the Sol system, broadcasting outdated civilian IFF codes. 11 vessels would have...
Wait. Outdated ones? I mean, wouldn't... Hopefully they're not gonna just, like, let them come in, right? That would be kind of weird. That's just a huge red flag right there. I wouldn't let them on. That's for damn sure. I wouldn't let them get anywhere near it.
Immediately retreat into slipspace when Battle Group Rhino approached, but the remaining ship was engaged, pursuant to standing orders to engage vessels that weren't positively identified as friendly. During the aptly named Battle of October 10th, the UNSC Totem Lake was destroyed, following reports of multiple hull breaches and boarding parties. Battle Group Rhino then regrouped at Phase Line Alpha, a UNSC-defined boundary surrounding Enceladus, and requested permission to attack the hostile vessel. The request was denied by Fleet Admiral Joseph Harper. An after-action report would be filed by October 17th. In an unknown sector of space, the Prophet of Regret would be informed that decryption of a Forerunner luminary had been completed. It reveals the location of the remaining Halo rings and a method to get to the Ark.
Which is incredibly important in this war, by the way. Alright. So that's how they kind of subvert the Covenant government, I guess. Alright.
Planet designated as Erde Tyrene, Regret has his fleet of sacred consecration depart for the planet immediately. Little did the Prophet know that Erde Tyrene was the Forerunner designation for Earth, humanity's homeworld.
Ah, okay. And that's why they ended up going to Earth. Got it. That makes a lot more sense. Okay. Instead of just, oh, we're going to take you out. Yeah. Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
The trip back to Earth would ultimately take more than a month, with the survivors from Installation 04 and the Battle of Reach arriving by October 19th. Oni wasted no time debriefing them and retrieving the Installation 04 data from Cortana. Captain Damian Hogarth, a man who worked closely with Dr. Halsey's rival, Colonel James Ackerson, employed an internal investigator, Dr. Veronica Clayton, to debrief the Spartans of Blue Team and, oddly, Sergeant Avery Johnson. Johnson's debrief would conclude before the Covenant invasion of Earth, but the interrogation of Blue Team, particularly Fred 104, would last into the early hours of the invasion, causing Blue Team to be separated from John 117.
Look, I understand they want to get to the bottom of it, but that is not the time. When battle comes out, it is not the time to debate past actions and shit like that. That's just ridiculous. You need to start focusing on what's happening right now. Right now. Forget about everything else. None of it else matters. You can think about it later. Finish the battle first.
Meanwhile, back on Earth, just a day before the invasion, a routine seismic scan of the area beneath New Mombasa by Virgil, a subroutine of the city's superintendent AI, discovers an anomaly, what would turn out to be the portal to the Ark. And that, I do believe, covers the events that occurred from the end of Halo CE until the start of Halo 2, more or less. I left out some details that don't have defined dates that may or may not fall within the scope of this video. Ultimately though, there's really not much else to speak on here. Hopefully y'all enjoyed this freeform timeline, or at least found some of the extra details enlightening. One thing I absolutely need to bring up, however, is the Ascendant Justice. In the original text for Halo First Strike, the Ascendant Justice was identified as the flagship of a scouting party sent ahead of High Charity to scope out the Soal system. However, later media retconned things, making the Ascendant Justice part of the fleet of Particular Justice, and seemingly the main ship used by the fleet's minor prophet, the Prophet of Stewardship. If you want to know more about him, check out my Installation 04 timeline video. But more interestingly, according to this new lore, Thel 'Vadamee would board the Ascendant Justice before the end of the Battle of the Ring, implying that he was aboard when Halo was destroyed. Perhaps that black armored elite was Thel, though equally perhaps not.
Okay. So our theory may or may not be right. Okay, so it may or may not be him. They're not going to reveal it. I get it. That's lame. Just say yes. It makes sense. It works. I don't know why you would just deny it. Why not? Just say yes. Nod. Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. That was intended. Isn't that awesome? Little thing you wouldn't know unless we told you.
I've made a few assumptions in this video to smooth out some of these discrepancies, but ultimately, this is another area 343 needs to address in more direct detail at some point. Thel is blamed for the loss of the Ascendant Justice as though it were a ship with some significance, though why it is significant isn't entirely clear. But that's a topic for another day. Speaking of the Ascendant Justice, I'd like to thank Unicraken of the Sins of the...
Alright, there we have it, chat. Check him out. Check out his video. It's great. I'm going to put it in the description. Don't forget to like, subscribe, do all that good stuff for me. It really, really helps.